Hey everyone, welcome back to another Yin practice here at Floating Lotus Online with me. I am super excited for this practice today because I am feeling so tight in the hips and so tight in the lower body, and just to get us ready to obviously move again and keep the joints really nice and limber, we're going to tap into that really big joint at the bottom there. We might do some feet as well. Today I am going to keep a bolster and a block nearby, so feel free to grab those props or those makeshift props that you've been using and set up a really nice relaxing playlist for yourself and meet me in a seated position when you're ready. So the first pose that I am going to dive into today is a forward folding butterfly. There's a couple of options for props here. You can place the soles of the feet together, dropping the knees open wide. And one variation that feels really nice is sliding the bolster underneath the knees. This gives a little bit of elevation to the knees, and it will also help the lower back relax. And there's a lot that works together with obviously the lower back and the hips. So we're gonna open that up so that we can dive a little deeper into the hip stretches a little later. And so once you have that bolster placed underneath the knees, take a nice lengthen into the spine as you breathe in. And as you exhale, just gently reach the heart towards your feet. Don't worry about reaching the hands to the top of the mat. Just maybe tuck the elbows in front of the shins if they reach, or maybe they just pull in through center. And at this point, you might like to grab your block and just place it on your feet. Letting the forehead rest on the block. And beginning to soften into the back of the neck. Notice your breath. Notice any contraction that you're holding in the shoulders, or perhaps the edges of your face. And begin to loosen into your jaw and into the tongue. If you're feeling anything like me today, and perhaps this is your first Yin practice of the week, or maybe even a couple of weeks, be sure to move slowly and gently into the depth of each pose. Try not to hold expectation on the body here. Allow it to open in its own time. Imagine each exhalation is turning the vertebrae in your neck to liquid. And perhaps you're starting to feel that that prop underneath your head is in the way, in which case you're welcome to take it out to the side and allow the chin to drop all the way to the chest, maybe dangling the head down. If it's uncomfortable, then obviously you absolutely don't have to take that option. We're going to pause here for another 5 breaths. Experiment with that space. And let yourself be a little heavier. Welcoming the breath into the back of the shoulder blades. And then on your next inhale, just slowly press down through your hands, whether it be on the feet or on the earth. You can take your block off to the side if you are still using it. And let the spine crawl up. Welcome to keep your eyes closed here, especially because we're lifting up. You might feel a little spin through the head. Take a nice slow breath in through the nose. Out through the nose. Let's pause here in a seated position. One more breath. Beautiful. And then if you feel comfortable, flutter open the eyes. Take your hands underneath your knees and just draw them together. Extend the legs long with the bolster still underneath the knees as we move into a caterpillar pose. And so this is same orientation of movement, but this time the legs are going to be together. And I actually like to move the meat out from underneath my body, just so the sit bones are really pressing down into the earth. Take a moment to close your eyes and inhale as you root down through the sit bones. Notice what happens through the spine here. And then as you exhale, same thing. Begin to reach your heart towards your knees. Soften into your belly and let yourself curl in over the legs. We let go of that yang focus of the pose where we try to keep the spine super straight. We can afford a little bit of a curl here. Again, yogi's choice. You can take your block on top of the legs and give your forehead something to rest on. Otherwise, if you're happy letting the head dangle, then let it go. Beautiful opener for the entire back line of the body. It slowly opens and lengthens all the way from the heels up the backs of the legs, spreading through the lower back, mid back, and the upper back, through the neck, over the skull, and right to the tip of your forehead. Can you really notice those sensations? Can you mentally live in that space? Belly breathing gently against the thighs. Notice where the body expands with the breath in and softens with the breath out. If you're anything like me, you might be noticing this quite a lot in the lower back. Reminding the face to melt. Releasing the mask of thought, perception, and stress. We're just going to take 5 more breaths. Welcome to stay where you are, or welcome to deepen or soften, however you need. Maybe you let yourself just fall completely heavy. And then to release, just face your palms down to the earth. Try not to exaggerate any lift through the head. Let the head come up last. Just walk your hands back towards your body as the spine slowly uncurls. Remember, we always come out of these poses nice and gentle. Welcome to keep the eyes closed if you like, and we're going to come into a rebound pose. So just bring the soles of the feet to the floor, lifting into the knees so that you can slide your bolster out. You're welcome to keep it underneath the knees for your rebound pose if you like, but we're going to come all the way down to the back. Take your time. Once you land on the earth, you might be lucky enough to get a few little pops and cracks through the lower back. You can keep the legs long. You can keep the bolster beneath the knees, or maybe you keep the soles of the feet on the floor. Nice bend into the knees. Arms are relaxed out by your sides. Breath is long and slow, allowing those sensations to trickle through the body, finding their new living space. Settling into the tissue. What do you notice happening physically in this still place? Where do you feel sensation? And whenever you're ready, just meet me in this position with your soles of the feet on the floor, nice and bent into the knees. So just sliding the bolster out from underneath you if you were still using it. I'm going to keep the ankles stacked somewhat underneath the knees, but we're going to actually widen them out to the outer edges of the mat. So try not to have the feet too far forward. Toes still point to the end of the mat. Once your feet find the outer edges of your mat, we're going to take little windscreen wipers through the legs. So sway the knees from side to side, nice and slowly. Or if you're a little tight in the legs like me, that might send a nice juicy stretch all the way down the front edge of your thigh. Or pause in any places that feel nice and juicy, that feel really enjoyable. Allow the inhale to lift the legs and the exhale to drop the legs. 2 more, in and out. Inhale and exhale. And inhale, bring the knees through center. And just roll gently to your left-hand side. And press yourself up to a tabletop position. You might be facing the back edge of your mat now. I'm going to come into a pigeon pose. I'll walk you through a couple of options for the props if you wish to use them. But from here, just step your left knee up behind your left wrist. And then grab your foot with your right hand or your ankle and slide it over towards the right edge of your mat. And then from here, if this is enough of a stretch for you, you can actually just slide your block or your bolster in underneath that left hip. Maybe you actually use it like a big pillow beneath the hips. Otherwise, you can deepen the pose a little more. You can tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, and lengthen that right leg long behind you. This will create a deeper sensation through the hips. It's important that you keep the hips even to the earth. And so try not to collapse all the way to the left side. If you are, then simply place that block or that bolster underneath the left hip. And just take a quick gaze and make sure that that back leg is nice and straight. Welcome to stay here on the hands. Take a deep breath in. Breathe out. Welcome to dive down to the elbows. If you're not already using your bolster, maybe you use it as a nice big body pillow out in front of you. Or maybe you lie down all the way to the earth. Find your own personal edge. And remember, we want the pose to still be restful. So if you're in a shape that feels really challenging or energetic, then see if you can adjust it, apply any support that you can so that you can actually let go in the shape. Allow the shoulders to drop away from the ears, wherever you are. Let the abdominal wall soften completely. You might need to remind yourself of this every few breaths. The hips and the core of the body are very reactionary, so when we're in something that feels quite deep, it's quite common for them to tense up in resistance. And so remember not to judge the body if it resists this pose. Allow the exhale to soothe and soften. Can you feel how the body leans into the pose on the exhale? It gently seeks itself. Once we hold here for another 8 breaths, you're welcome to soften the pose a little or come a little deeper if you feel that your body will enjoy it. And perhaps that means removing a prop or adding a prop. If the breath begins to tighten or shorten in any way, you know that's a sign that you've come too far. We have 5 more breaths. Nice job, and nice and slowly we're going to begin to come up off the earth or the bolster, gently walking the hands back towards your body. I'm going to give you yogi's choice here. You're welcome to tuck the back toes, lift the back knee and slide that left leg long to the end of the mat so that you can simply lay down on your belly. Or you can explore a nice gentle downward facing dog here if you really feel the need to walk out the legs. So you can gently tuck the toes, lift through the knees and press the hips up and back, making sure the hands are about shoulder width apart. And gazing back between your legs so you're nice and long through the neck. And you can pedal into the feet. This is totally up to you. This might be a little too active for your personal yin practice, in which case you can simply lie on the floor. And once you've pedaled out through your down dog, you can meet us down on the earth. Extending the legs long and melting down to the belly. Arms fall down by the sides, with the palms facing up. We're going to take 5 slow breaths. What do you notice happening all the way down that left leg? Noticing that energy assimilating. And then when you're ready, bring the hands beneath the shoulders, pressing up into your tabletop. bring the knees hip distance apart, stacked directly beneath the hips, and we'll slide into the other side. So when you're ready, you can send your right knee up towards your right wrist and just lengthen through that left leg enough so that you can grab hold of the foot with your left hand and slide it towards the left side of your mat. So it doesn't matter if it doesn't reach the left side, it doesn't matter if the shin isn't parallel to the front of the mat. We just want the foot to travel past the center line of the mat. So send it over towards that left side as much as you can. And then remember here, you can slide a block in underneath that right hip, or maybe you slide the bolster in completely underneath the hips so that you have quite a lot of height between you and the floor. If you want to deepen along with me, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, and send that leg as long behind you as you can. Take your time. Once you've found your edge, untuck that back foot. Check that it's nice and straight. And then welcome to stay on the palms, making sure you're nice and soft in the shoulders. Or perhaps you melt down to the elbows. Or maybe you come all the way down to the bolster. And if you are coming down to the bolster, just make sure you take the opposite cheek to the bolster, just so you can remain even through the neck. Remember to take that time in your first few breaths, really locate the parts of the body that are in resistance to the shape, and you soften against those edges. Notice where your mind wanders, if it does take you away from the mat. See if you can notice when your body is asking to go a little deeper, or perhaps it's asking to come back a little. Can you notice the difference between your body asking and your ego asking? Let's take 8 more breaths. Remind your shoulders to relax. Can the abdominal wall let go for just 4 more breaths? And then when you're ready, you can slowly, slowly, slowly walk your hands back towards your body, rising up from the earth or the bolster, and taking yogi's choice, whether you're tucking the back toes, lifting the back knee, and simply sliding that leg back to the end of your mat so that you can lie down on the belly. Or maybe you tuck the toes, lift through the knees, and take a little gentle downward facing dog for a few breaths so that you can extend out of the tailbone and press the heels down into the earth. Maybe take a little pedal through the legs. Let this be kind of a fluid, free flow. Don't worry so much about your alignment being perfect. Instead, worry about you enjoying what you feel. And welcome to meet us down on the mat when you're ready, lowering the knees, lengthening the legs out long, coming all the way down to the belly. Arms fall down by the sides. Nice long breaths. Let it go. And then when you're ready, just bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Gently press up to your tabletop. And gently bring the knees together. And see if you can tuck all 10 toes. And I like to reach back and just make sure that the pinky toes are coming underneath as well, because sometimes they like to be a little bit cheeky and they don't come underneath. We're going to take a toe sit. And now a toe sit can be quite strong, so if it is strong for you, remember to be very gentle and compassionate with the body. We don't often stretch the feet back in this particular orientation, so it may be quite strong either through the ankles or through the toes or sometimes even the knees. But it's a deep cleanser for all of the energy centers in your body. So you're welcome to sit the hips back towards your heels and just keep your hands on the floor like me. This is a nice gentle variation. If this is feeling strong enough for you already, then just stay here. Or welcome to come back to this variation at any point. We're not going to hold this pose for as long. But if you'd like to come a little deeper, with the thighs glued together, you can slowly take your hands to your thighs and gently sit back on the heels. See if you can encourage your breath to be gentle. Can you gently tuck the tailbone in underneath you? Can you let the fingertips to be soft? And even the third eye center is soft. I know this is strong, but try to stay with the breath. I promise it will feel amazing afterwards. If it helps you to find a drishti to focus on, then welcome to do that. We're just going to take 5 more breaths. Breathing in a sense of patience. And breathing out a sense of resistance. If you need to place your hands back on the floor, you can. You got this. And I promise the more you do this pose, the easier it becomes. I haven't done this pose in quite a while, so this is more challenging for me than it usually is, so don't worry, I'm with you on this. Let's take one more breath. Beautiful. And then if you haven't taken your hands to the floor already, bring them to the earth. Lift the hips off the heels and untuck the toes and sit back in your Japanese seat. If it's too strong to sit your hips all the way on the heels, remember you can obviously keep your hands on the ground and keep the hips elevated a little bit. If you like, taking an opposing stretch, welcome to sit back on the heels. Giving a little bit of length into the front side of the legs now. Front side of the feet. If you feel really drawn to it, you might even like to walk your hands towards the back of the mat a little bit and levitate through the knees. You don't have to do this. One more breath. Beautiful. And then slowly come back to center. And then just slide your hips to one side and send the legs out long in front. And if your legs are still a little bit tender, then you can obviously give them a little bit of a massage. Circle in through the ankles. You might even have one leg that responded to that stretch more than the other, and that's totally common. Sometimes we hold energetic blocks through one side more than the other. Taking your circles back the other way. Perfect. And then just make sure that your bolster is within reach. So bring it up towards the edge of your mat and then come all the way down onto your back. I'm going to take a supported happy baby pose. So when you're ready, bringing the feet beneath your knees, knees are hip distance apart. Just lift through your hips so you can slide the bolster in underneath you, making sure that the bolster travels from left to right rather than up and down your spine. Once it's resting nice and comfortably underneath the lower back, and it's supporting your tailbone, maybe even half of the booty as well. We find ourselves in a supported bridge, which you're more than welcome to enjoy as long as you like. And you can even come back to this pose if the happy baby becomes too much for you. When you're ready, you can slowly lift through the knees, bring them in towards your belly, and just let them fall towards the belly. If you're noticing that it's really hard for the knees to fall towards the belly, maybe just send the bolster a little bit further down towards the end of your mat so that you've got the right leverage. Perhaps you even notice that you've got it too far down and you need to adjust the bolster up a little bit. We really want that nice seesaw action so that as we draw the knees closer, they really weight down towards the heart space. And then option one, open through the knees, take them nice and wide. And with the feet still close together, bring your arms inside the legs and just catch hold of your ankles. This might be your happy baby today. Just providing a gentle opening through the hips here. And hopefully this feels relaxing enough that you can keep the shoulders and the back of the head on the floor. It doesn't really require any physical exertion. Option two is coming into the full pose, allowing your hands to cross over the top of your ankles and the hands grip onto the outer edges of your feet. And then once you have your grip, gently track the ankles back in space so that they stack on top of your knees and the soles of the feet are pointing straight up towards the ceiling. Nice right angles between the legs. We're essentially hoping that the hamstrings or those thigh bones are parallel to the earth. Remember, the shoulders are on the floor, the back of the head is on the floor. Jaw is soft. And you can even close down through the eyes. And can you notice any patterns or shapes or lights forming behind your eyelids. Can you notice any parts of you that are still trying really hard? Can you melt into the shoulder joints, the elbows, the wrists, the ankles, knees, and of course the hips? Allowing the breath to be an ebb and flow that slowly lowers you down into that meditation space. I'm just going to take 5 more breaths. Notice any remaining edges that might be jagged or rough, and smooth them over with your gentle touch. Let go of the need to be perfect. And instead, just aim to be present. And then if you haven't already, just gently allow the feet to fall back towards each other. And then in your own time, you can use your hands to guide the knees back together. Try not to engage the leg muscles too much here. Let the hands do all the work. Maybe just interlace your fingers around your knees for a second, holding yourself nice and close. And then bring your hands to the front side of your knees, and then gently press the legs away from you. Slowly lower the feet down to the earth. When you're ready, you can press into the feet, lift the hips up, Slide your bolster down underneath the knees. If you like taking your Shavasana without the bolster underneath the knees, you can slide it out completely. But allow yourself to find a nice relaxing reclined position. Maybe you take a blanket over the body, especially if it's cold where you are. And maybe you drape a towel or a t-shirt over the eyes so that you can penetrate a little deeper into that internal blackness, that comforting space. That space that is entirely your own. You don't have to be anyone in particular. You don't have to do anything specific. You just get to exist in this internal space. Knowing that all the layers of who you are slowly peel away. And you can sit with your true self. Your true self that is your sensations. Your energetic fluctuations. The purely objective awareness of everything that is physically within you in this moment. As you allow the breath to slow, allow your body to become as heavy as it can be. With each exhale, you create an indent in the earth in the shape of your body. And you're welcome to remain in this shape, in this bed of the earth that you have created for as long as you need. And I thank you so much for joining me on the mat today. Namaste.